When the lawyer handed me the envelope, I thought maybe, just maybe, my mom had left a letter. Something sentimental. Some kind of explanation. Instead, it was a single folded card. On the front, a watercolor butterfly. I opened it with hands trembling, heart racing. Inside, in her handwriting, the same one that used to write my name on lunchboxes, it said, "Good luck, sweetheart. You always figure things out." That was it. No money. No explanation. No goodbye. Meanwhile, my sister Emily was handed a check for $500,000. I stood there in that oak-paneled office, my ears ringing, watching Emily cry tears of joy while I tried to remember how to breathe. Have you ever been erased by the very people who are supposed to love you unconditionally? Tell me in the comments, because today I'm telling you the story of how I lost my mother and then lost everything else too. My name is Rachel Morgan, and this story starts long before the card. Long before the inheritance. It starts in a little yellow house on Brookline Avenue, with two girls chasing fireflies and a mother who hummed Patsy Cline while folding laundry. I was the oldest, born 2 years before Emily. My parents, Thomas and Linda Morgan, weren't wealthy, but we never felt poor. We had love. And in childhood, that feels like everything. My dad was a high school history teacher. He had this low, gentle voice and could make even the Battle of Gettysburg sound like a bedtime story. He smelled like old books and pipe tobacco. My mom was a nurse until Emily was born. After that, she stayed home. She kept our house running like a tight ship, but she was warm, too. Funny. She'd make cocoa after snowstorms and draw smiley faces on our sandwiches in mustard. And Emily was magic. Golden curls. Big blue eyes. The kind of child strangers would stop to compliment. Even as a kid, I was aware of how people looked at her. How grown-ups lingered when she spoke. How even my teachers would ask, "How's your little sister doing?" before asking how I was. But it never made me jealous. She was my baby sister. I loved her with a fierceness I didn't yet have words for. We shared a room till I was 12. Whispered secrets under the covers. She used to crawl into my bed after nightmares and wrap her arms around my waist like I was a life raft. "You'll always protect me, right, Ray?" she'd whisper. "Always," I'd whisper back. I meant it, and for a while that was enough. But little things start to stack up over time, don't they? When we got our first bikes, mine was secondhand, rusty, with a loose chain. Emily's was brand new, pink streamers, basket with a flower decal. "You're older," my mom said. "You understand." At birthdays, Emily got pony rides and face painters. I got homemade cakes and just family. In school, I worked hard. Straight A's. Piano recitals. I brought home perfect report cards and math competition trophies. My mom would say, "We're so proud of you, Rachel." But when Emily made the cheer team, even JV, there were balloons. Dinner out. A new dress. It wasn't that they didn't love me. They just loved her louder. I started noticing how often I was the helper. The one who was expected to give up the front seat. Let her have the last cookie. Stay home when she was sick, so she wouldn't feel alone. "You're the big sister," my mom would remind me. "She needs you." So I gave. And gave. And gave. High school brought bigger shifts. Emily was popular. Beautiful. Voted most likely to be famous. I was, well, smart. I had 2 close friends, a love for literature, and a desire to leave town so badly it burned in my chest. When I got accepted into Northwestern on a partial scholarship, I cried. I'd worked so hard. AP classes, extracurriculars, volunteer hours. I wanted my mom to be proud. I remember the exact day I told her. She was chopping carrots in the kitchen. "I got in," I said, my voice shaking. "Northwestern, Mom. I did it." She looked up, blinked. "That's far," she said. I nodded. "I know, but it's the best school I applied to." She smiled, tight, small. "Well, we'll figure it out. I just worry about Emily. She's been having such a hard time lately. Maybe you could take a year off? Stay close for now." My throat went dry. I went anyway, but the guilt followed me like a shadow. College was freeing. I made new friends. Fell in love with philosophy and iced lattes and the quiet of Chicago snowfall. But I still called home. Weekly. Sometimes more. The calls became familiar routines. Emily's struggling with her roommate. Emily's thinking of switching majors. Emily totaled the car, but thank God she's okay. Always Emily. I'd say, I got an internship. My mom would respond, did I tell you Emily got cast in the student film? When my dad died, I was 21, I flew home immediately. He collapsed during a hike. It was sudden. I planned the funeral. Called relatives. Sorted life insurance. Emily cried. Loudly. Visibly. And I get it, grief is different for everyone. But when I tried to hold Mom's hand in the church, she gently pulled away. Wrapped both her arms around Emily instead. After the funeral, I stayed. I delayed graduation by a semester. Took online courses so I could help around the house. Mom was quiet, distant. But Emily became needier. I drove her to auditions. Cooked dinner most nights. Paid utilities with my savings when bills fell behind. Still, it never felt like I was seen. Just expected. When I eventually moved back to Chicago, I tried to set boundaries. But family ties, they tug. I'd still visit for holidays. Emily would come late, leave early, but still be the one Mom talked about for days. One Thanksgiving, I made the entire meal from scratch. Turkey, sides, pies. Emily brought a store-bought salad. Mom clapped her hands. Emily, this is so thoughtful. I said nothing. Just smiled. Washed the dishes alone while they watched a movie. But I kept trying. When Mom was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, I took time off work. Emily couldn't. Her job was too demanding. So I came. Again. I helped with medication schedules. Took her to appointments. Sat up at night when she couldn't breathe. And when she started writing her will, I remember she looked at me across the kitchen table and said, I'm so proud of you, Rachel. You've always been strong. I nodded, feeling seen for maybe the first time. I just hope Emily will be okay, she added. I laughed gently. She'll be fine, Mom. You raised her. But deep down, I felt something I couldn't name yet. A pulling, a knowing, a sense that all my quiet sacrifices had been invisible, and always would be. Grief makes you see things differently. After Dad passed and Mom's health began to decline, the cracks in our family foundation started widening. At first, it was small stuff. Emily forgetting doctor's appointments, promising to come by, and then canceling last minute. Sorry, Rach, my friend from work is in town. You get it, right? Of course I got it. I always got it. But the tension didn't come from her absence. It came from how Mom never seemed to mind. She'd defend Emily every time. She's busy, honey. You know her life is chaotic. She feels things more deeply than you. She's not built like you are, Rachel. That line, not built like you are, stuck with me. As if my ability to show up meant I didn't have feelings at all. The first big moment came the day we were going over Mom's insurance paperwork. I'd driven in from Chicago, sat with her for hours, sorting prescriptions, co-pays, long-term care documents. Emily hadn't called in weeks. Mom looked tired. Her hair had thinned. There were bruises on her arms from blood draws. And, as I was organizing her folder, she said, I need you to promise me something. Anything. She reached for my hand. If anything ever happens to me, please make sure Emily's okay. She's fragile. I nodded, even though my throat tightened. I was doing everything, yet still cast as the background character. One night, a few months later, I came home for Mom's birthday. I'd baked her favorite cake, lemon with raspberry filling. Emily showed up an hour late, wearing a designer jacket and holding a bottle of wine. From a vineyard in Sonoma, she said, kissing Mom's cheek. Mom lit up like Christmas. Isn't she just wonderful? I stood there holding a cake I'd made from scratch, suddenly invisible again. After dinner, Emily scrolled on her phone during cleanup. I washed dishes quietly while Mom bragged about how Emily might get a promotion. They want her to manage the entire West Coast region. That's great, I said. Didn't she just start this job? Rachel, my mom scolded. Why must you sound so critical? My chest tightened. I wasn't being critical, I was asking. At Thanksgiving, I brought my partner, Drew. We'd been dating for a year. He was kind, soft-spoken, helped with cooking, and offered to drive Mom to the pharmacy the next day. Emily pulled me aside in the hallway. "So, he's your boyfriend?" she asked.
Yes. Why?
She shrugged. "He's just so normal. I pictured you as someone more intellectual." I smiled politely. "He teaches middle school science." "Exactly," she said, as if that proved her point. That night, Drew leaned in and whispered, "Your sister doesn't like me very much." I laughed it off, but my stomach sank. He wasn't wrong. Then there was the Christmas incident. I'd bought Mom a beautiful wool shawl, deep green, imported from Ireland. I'd been saving for weeks. Emily gave her a $25 Sephora gift card. Mom clutched the gift card to her chest like it was gold. "Emily always knows just what I need." I said nothing. Again. When we got back to my apartment, Drew said, "I don't think I've ever seen someone be so blatantly dismissed by their own family." That sentence stayed with me. I'd always explained away the favoritism.
Justified it.
But maybe it wasn't subtle anymore. The next spring, Mom had a health scare. Collapsed at the grocery store. I dropped everything, drove in the night, spent 48 hours straight by her bedside. Emily showed up once. Stayed 20 minutes. The nurse asked, "Are you the daughter?" I said, "Yes." She smiled. "Your mom talks about Emily a lot." I felt that punch in my gut again. Later, at home, I found an old photo album. Flipping through, I noticed something strange. Almost every solo picture was of Emily. Dance recitals, school plays, beach trips. I was there too, but mostly in the background. Watching. Holding the camera. Not once in the spotlight. The will came up that summer. Mom asked us both to sit with her. "I've spoken to the lawyer," she said. "It's time we get things in order." Emily looked uncomfortable.
Ugh.
Morbid. Mom waved her off. "It's practical."
She turned to me.
"I want you to know, I trust you. You'll understand everything when the time comes." Something about that sentence chilled me. I glanced at Emily. She looked bored, almost smug. I asked, "Do you want us to help you write it?" Mom shook her head.
No.
"I already have. It's all done." After that, things got weirder. Emily started posting passive-aggressive quotes on Facebook. Family isn't about blood. It's about loyalty. Some people play the victim so well they forget they're actually the problem. I ignored it. Until one day, a mutual friend messaged me. "Is everything okay with your sister? She's been telling people you're trying to control your mom's estate." My heart dropped. I hadn't touched anything. I'd been waiting for instructions. I called Emily. "What are you telling people?" She laughed. "Relax, Rachel. I just said you're very involved." "That's not a lie." "But it sounds like you're planting something." "You always assume the worst of me," she snapped. "Maybe stop being so controlling." I hung up the phone and stared at the wall for a long time. The last time I saw Mom alive was 6 weeks before she passed. She was weaker. Tired. But lucid. We sat outside with iced tea, watching the hydrangeas bloom. "You've been a good daughter," she said quietly. My eyes filled. "Thank you." "Emily has a hard time showing up," she added, "but she loves me in her own way." I nodded, even though a part of me wanted to scream. "You've always figured things out," she said. "I hope you'll forgive me someday, if things don't make sense right away." I looked at her. "What do you mean?" She smiled faintly. "You'll see." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the guest bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what she meant. If things don't make sense right away, I think, deep down, I already knew. I just didn't want to believe it. The call came on a Tuesday. I was folding laundry. The phone buzzed once, then again. Unknown number. I answered with that immediate panic in my gut. And then I heard the words that shifted my whole world. "Miss Morgan, we're so sorry. Your mother passed this morning. No accident. No drama. Just gone. Congestive heart failure. She died in her sleep. Quietly. Alone." I sat on the floor of my apartment, holding a warm towel in my hands, and just stared. For the first 5 minutes, I couldn't even cry. I called Emily. No answer. Texted. Mom's gone. 10 minutes later. I just got out of a meeting. Are you sure? Am I sure? The next day was a blur. Phone calls. Funeral arrangements. Talking to the lawyer. Emily finally called that night. Her voice was cracked with tears. I can't believe it, she said. I thought we'd have more time. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. She kept saying she was proud of you. I told her. There was a pause. Really?
Yes.
She said you were doing your best. That was a lie.
But I didn't want to fight. Not now.
I flew home 2 days later. Emily met me at the house, already halfway packed for herself. I can't be here too long, she said. Work is insane. She stayed in her childhood bedroom while I slept on the couch. I spent the next 72 hours organizing everything. Calling relatives. Arranging the funeral. Cleaning the fridge. Emily went to brunch with her college friends the morning of the burial. I stood by our mother's grave alone. At the reception, people gave me tight smiles. You are such a good daughter. She always talked about Emily. You're the strong one. That phrase again. The strong one. By the time we made it to the lawyer's office, I was exhausted. Physically, emotionally, existentially. Emily was chewing gum, tapping her nails on the arm of the leather chair. The lawyer, Mr. Graham, was kind, in his 60s, glasses that slid down his nose. I'll begin by reading the formal contents of Linda Morgan's last will and testament. He spoke in that neutral, practiced tone, like it was any other Wednesday. He named a few charitable donations, a necklace to a cousin, some antique furniture to an aunt. Then he cleared his throat. To my daughter, Emily Morgan, he continued, I leave the sum of $500,000 to be released in full upon execution of this will. My head spun. Emily gasped, covered her mouth, started crying. The lawyer looked at me, and to my daughter, Rachel Morgan. My heart was racing. I leave a personal letter. Enclose. Silence. I stared at him. That's it. He hesitated.
Yes.
I'm sorry. He slid a small envelope across the desk. My name was written on it in Mom's handwriting. I opened it, hands trembling. Inside was a blank greeting card with a watercolor butterfly on the front. And just one sentence. Good luck, sweetheart. You always figure things out. That was it. No goodbye. No explanation. No apology. Just good luck. I sat there, numb, as Emily blew her nose and giggled through her tears. I just can't believe she left me that much. I didn't think she had it. She looked at me. What did yours say? I folded the card and slipped it back in the envelope. Nothing. Well, she said, standing up. I guess Mom knew we'd be okay.
We.
I stood too, my legs unsteady. You're not even surprised? I asked. She tilted her head. I mean, Mom knew I needed it more than you. You've always been the capable one. There it was again. That word. Capable. Strong. Unneedy. Read. Less loved. That night, I sat in the car outside the house, holding the card in my lap. It wasn't even the money. It was the message behind it. That all the nights I stayed up with her, the bills I helped pay, the sacrifices I made, that none of it had been seen. Or worse, it had been seen and still not valued. My love had been silent. Steady. Sacrificial. Hers was loud, needy, messy. And somehow, the latter always got rewarded. I called Drew from the car. I told him everything. There was a long pause on the line. Then, I'm coming to get you. I sobbed, finally, fully. The kind of sob that breaks your ribs from the inside. Not because of money, but because my mother chose a goodbye that felt like abandonment. That was the moment the story changed. That was the moment the illusion shattered. The moment I stopped being the strong one and started being the one who saw things clearly. I didn't sleep for 2 nights after the will was read. I just couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that card. That single sentence. That damn butterfly. Good luck, sweetheart. You always figure things out. As if all I was to her was capable. As if my reliability was currency, and she'd spent it all already. On the third day, I decided I needed answers. Or closure. Or just something that made this hurt make sense. I pulled out Mom's journals. She had kept a dozen, maybe more. Old ones. Mostly half-filled notebooks. I don't know what I was looking for. But I found it. July 12th, 2005. Emily had another meltdown today. Rachel helped calm her down. That girl has more patience than I ever had. Sometimes I worry she doesn't get the attention she deserves. But she doesn't ask for it, and Emily does. Is that fair? God, I hope she understands. Page after page like that. Her guilt. Her regret. Her fear that she favored Emily not out of love, but out of obligation. And me? I became the easy one. The invisible one. I walked into the kitchen and found Emily sipping orange juice like nothing had happened.
We need to talk, I said.
She looked up slowly. You okay? I sat across from her. Laid the journal flat on the table. Did you know? I asked. Know what? That she left you everything. That she left me nothing. Emily shrugged. I didn't know specifics, no. But Mom always said she'd help me if anything happened to her. And you don't find that insane? You don't need it, Rachel. My hands curled into fists. That's not the point. Then what is the point? She snapped, finally irritated. That I'm the problem child and you're the saint? I froze. No, I said. But I am the one who took care of her. Who showed up. I was the one who paid the electricity when she couldn't. Who brought her groceries when you didn't even call. Emily laughed bitterly. You think that buys you love? No, I said. But it should have meant something. I stood up, walked to the living room, pulled out a box from the closet. Inside, every photo of us as kids. I held one up, me and Mom, baking together when I was 6. She used to say I was her helper, I said. Emily crossed her arms. Yeah, and I was the one with asthma and panic attacks.
You don't know what that felt like.
You're right, I said. I don't. But I know what it felt like to be strong when I didn't want to be. I picked up a second photo. Mom at the hospital after her hip surgery. I was beside her. Emily wasn't there. You know what this is? I asked. She didn't answer. This is what it looks like to love someone so much you forget to ask for love back. Emily's eyes welled up. You think you're better than me?
No, I said.
I think I stopped pretending this family was fair. She flinched. So what now? She whispered. I took a breath, reached into my coat pocket, pulled out Mom's letter, the butterfly card. I laid it on the table between us. You can keep the money, I said. You can keep the house. But you don't get to keep the narrative. Emily blinked. What does that mean? I leaned forward. It means you don't get to tell people I was fine with it. Or that I didn't need it. Or that Mom just wanted it this way. I opened the journal. Showed her the entry. Her face fell. She knew, She knew what she was doing. She just didn't have the courage to stop. The silence between us was thick. And then she said, quietly, I didn't ask for her to pick me. No, I said. But you didn't refuse it either.
A beat.
You didn't ask how I felt. You didn't say, this isn't fair. You just accepted it. Emily looked away. I was tired of feeling like the broken one, she whispered. And I was tired of pretending I was whole, I said. I walked to the door. Grabbed my suitcase. I'm going to stay with Drew for a while, I said.
She stood.
Rachel. Don't, I said, voice cracking. Don't say sorry unless you mean to do something with it. She stood there in the doorway as I walked to the car. I glanced back one last time. She was holding the journal. And crying. I got in the car. Buckled the seatbelt. And for the first time since the funeral, I felt something shift. Not peace. Not closure. But power. Because I had finally said the thing I'd swallowed for years. I had spoken. I had chosen myself. I sent one last text before I drove off. To Emily. I hope you use it well. The money. The house. The history. I hope you grow. But I can't be the quiet one anymore. The next morning, I got a voicemail from her. She was crying. "I don't know how to fix this, Rachel, but I'll try." I didn't call her back. Not yet. Some wounds need time. But I saved the message, just in case that door ever opens again on my terms. After the confrontation with Mom and Emily, the silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. I moved out of the family home a week later, just packed my things into 2 suitcases, and drove to a friend's guest room across town. No one came out to wave goodbye. No one even texted. It was as if I'd stopped existing. But for once, I wasn't the one trying to fix it. In the weeks that followed, I kept wondering, had I been too harsh? Was I cruel to say what I said? But then I'd look at the card again. Good luck. That's all I was worth to them. After 34 years of trying to be a good daughter, a good sister, that card felt like a eulogy. I didn't just lose an inheritance. I lost the illusion. I wasn't ever going to be chosen. And when I finally accepted that, the grief hit in waves I never expected. People talk about mourning the dead, but no one prepares you for mourning the living. I mourn my mother. I mourn the idea that she might one day turn to me and say, "I'm proud of you." I mourn the sisterhood I thought I had. I remembered birthday parties where I took the photos, Christmas mornings where I stayed up late wrapping Emily's gifts because Mom was too tired. All those times I thought, this will be the moment they see me. But they never did. At work, I put on a brave face, told people my family was going through some stuff. Only my coworker Tanya, a single mom from Detroit who had lived through her own hell, really saw through it. One afternoon, she walked into my office and just said, "You've been grieving people who never loved you right." I see it. And I broke. I cried on her shoulder like I hadn't even let myself cry at Dad's funeral. Because for once, someone saw me. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since high school. Entry after entry turned into pages of questions I knew I'd never get answers to. Why wasn't I enough? What did I do wrong? Why was Emily always the one they protected? One day, I found an old childhood photo in the back of my notebook. It was me holding a teddy bear, one I used to carry everywhere. I was maybe 6, and I just stared at that little girl. She didn't deserve what happened. That's when the shift began. Not a sudden one. Not a dramatic movie-style revelation. But a quiet, aching truth that settled in my bones. I had spent my entire life trying to be enough for people who had already made up their minds. About 3 months after the fallout, I started getting occasional messages from extended family. My Aunt Karen, Dad's sister, reached out. She said, "I don't know what happened between you and your mom, but I've always thought you were the strongest person in the family." I broke down again. Because that strength? It came from years of being invisible and still choosing to show up. My cousin Jake sent a text out of the blue. "Heard what happened. Just want you to know, you deserved better." A few neighbors I grew up around stopped by my new place. One brought cookies and said, "You don't owe anyone your silence anymore." Slowly, like tiny stars poking through a stormy night, I began to feel like maybe, just maybe, the world wasn't completely cruel. But it didn't make the nights easier. I had to mourn alone. I missed my dad's voice. I missed believing I had a home to return to. I even missed Emily, the version of her I believed in. I went through therapy, started reading about enmeshment, family scapegoats, and the golden child dynamic. I realized I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't selfish. I was just the one who stopped pretending. And people who benefit from the lie hate the truth teller. There was one night, maybe 6 months later, that still sticks with me. It was raining hard. I was on my couch, watching old home videos I'd digitized from my dad's camera tapes. In one, I was about 9. Emily was opening birthday presents. Everyone was cheering for her. And there I was in the corner, holding the trash bag, cleaning up the wrapping paper, with a little smile on my face. No one told me to. I was just trying to help. And watching that, it hit me. I had always been giving. And they had always been taking. That was the night I stopped trying to get my mother to call. That was the night I stopped checking Emily's Instagram stories to see if she missed me. That was the night I stopped mourning the people who chose to let me go. Because I didn't leave them. They left me a long time ago. The card just made it official. Good luck. Maybe it wasn't a curse. Maybe it was a blessing in disguise. The real healing didn't start with a big moment. It started with a plant. A tiny pot hose in a cracked pot that Tanya dropped off at my door with a note. Water it when you don't feel like moving. That plant sat by my window, drooping some days, thriving on others just like me. I started walking every morning. 15 minutes. Just around the block. No phone. No music. Just the sound of my own breath and the gravel under my shoes. At first, the silence felt loud. But after a few weeks, I started to crave it. It was the only space where no one expected me to be anything but alive. I signed up for therapy again. A new therapist this time, someone who specialized in family trauma. Her name was Lisa. I remember sitting across from her in that little office with beige walls and a box of tissues I swore I wouldn't need. I needed them. You've been the emotional shock absorber in your family for decades, she said during our second session. You were never the problem. You were just the mirror. That line stayed with me. Mirrors don't cause the cracks. They just reflect them. And I had spent too long being punished for seeing too clearly. Around that time, I met someone new. Not romantically, not yet. Her name was Rachel, a yoga teacher and single mother of 2, who had been through a brutal custody battle. We met at a community grief support group. She spoke about losing both her parents in a car crash and how her brother cut her out of the will right after the funeral. Her story echoed mine like a haunting melody. We started talking after meetings, then having coffee, then texting at 2 a.m. when the silence became unbearable. You get it, she said one night. And I did. We weren't blood, but she became my sister in grief. And eventually in healing. We made a pact. Every month, we do something new together. We took pottery classes, went ziplining, even started volunteering at a nonprofit that helped young women transition out of foster care. That last one hit home. Because I realized those girls were starting their adult lives with nothing but trauma and a trash bag of belongings. And somehow, they were still hopeful. I wanted to be like them. Not bitter. Not broken. Just beginning again. I ended up starting a small project, a blog called Second Thread. It was simple. Stories of people rebuilding after family betrayal. No names. No revenge. Just truth and survival. Within 3 months, it had hundreds of followers. A woman from Nebraska messaged me saying, "Your post about the birthday card? That was my childhood." Another woman from India wrote, "We don't talk about family betrayal here. Thank you for giving me the words." That's when I realized I wasn't alone. I never had been. I had just been looking for belonging in the wrong direction. I kept the card. Good luck. It sits in a shadow box now. Not as a scar, but as a symbol. A reminder that luck isn't given. It's made. And I've been making my own ever since. Rachel's kids now call me Auntie Joe. Tanya and I go to a little jazz club every third Friday, our version of church. I spend Saturdays at the shelter reading books to girls who remind me so much of myself, quiet, eager, and unsure if they matter. And every time one of them smiles and says, "Will you be here next week?" I say, "I'm not going anywhere." Because that's what I needed. Someone who stayed. I don't know if my mother ever thinks about me. I don't know if Emily reads my blog and recognizes herself. But I've stopped needing answers. I've stopped needing apologies. The only closure I ever needed was the one I gave myself. The day I chose peace over permission. The day I said, I'm allowed to exist without proving my worth. I didn't lose everything. I lost the lie. And what I found was better than any inheritance. I found myself. If you're still watching this, you probably know the kind of pain I'm talking about. That hollow ache of being the forgotten one. The disbelief of realizing your family sees you as less than. The silence after the fight. The birthday they skipped. The message they didn't send. The inheritance they split without you. If any of that sounds familiar, you're not broken. You're not unlovable. You're just someone who is taught to wait for love instead of expecting it. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to wait anymore. You get to rewrite your story. You get to redefine what family means. I used to think blood was everything. That DNA gave people the right to mistreat you because they're still your family. But family is not who shares your blood. It's who shares your burden. It's who calls you when you're quiet. It's who remembers your birthday, even if it's just a silly meme and a thinking of you. It's the friend who drops off soup when you're sick. The neighbor who notices your lights have been off for 3 days and knocks anyway. It's the teacher who said, "You're special," even when your parents didn't. It's the stranger in the comment section who says, "Same here. You're not alone." So, to anyone who ever got a good luck when they deserved a blessing, to anyone who sat through someone else's celebration while quietly grieving, to anyone who smiled through the tears because they didn't want to make it awkward, I see you. I am you. And I want to ask you to do something brave today. Just one thing. Share your story in the comments. No filter. No shame. No need to make it sound pretty. Just say what happened. You might think no one cares, but I promise, someone will read your comment at 3 a.m. and feel less alone because of it. That's the whole point of this channel. Not drama. Not revenge. Just truth. Raw, uncomfortable, empowering truth. And if you're not ready to share, that's okay too. Just comment where you're watching from. Your city. Your country. I want this section to look like a map of survivors. People who've lost so much and still chose to show up. I want you to look through the comments and find someone else who's hurting.
And reply.
Just a few words. Same. I believe you. You're not crazy. You deserved better. Because sometimes we can't change what happened to us, but we can become what we needed. And if you're someone who has never felt left out by family, someone who's had supportive parents, loving siblings, I'm so glad. You're lucky. But don't scroll away. I want to ask you something too. Be that safe person for someone else. You'd be shocked how many people go through life without a single person who checks in. Be the friend who doesn't say, "Well, that's still your mom." Be the person who believes them the first time. Because emotional abuse doesn't leave bruises, but it leaves patterns. It leaves people doubting their worth well into adulthood. And sometimes the simplest kindness, a text, a hug, a "Hey, I thought of you today," can change a person's direction. Before you go, if this video resonated with you, hit the like button.
Subscribe.
Not because of algorithm stuff, but because I want this community to grow. I want this to be a place where the uninvited find their seat at the table, where the disinherited find their voice, where the overlooked become the center, where people like us, people who got a card instead of care, finally get what we needed.
Love.
Understanding. And a space to say, "That was wrong, and I survived it anyway." My name is Joanna. I didn't get the money. I didn't get the approval. But I got something better. I got me. And that is more than enough.